You guys at the fish market have been able to create a brand that's an experience, and you and I've kind of talked about this before.
Yeah.
You created an experience, and by creating that experience, you start to hit the sides of the world like Disneyland or Margaritaville or any of these things that are experiences. That's what the fish market is. I mean,
Yeah.
great, you got great food, but it's an experience. That's why you go to the fish market.
Hey, I'm Mike Ungaro, and welcome to Fish Factor. I'm the CEO, visionary, and business co-owner of the Kings of Fish TV series on Amazon Prime and the legendary San Pedro Fish Market. Under my leadership, we saw double-digit annual sales growth for over a decade and became the second most visited seaside attraction on the western seaboard, second only to SeaWorld. On this channel, you'll get an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to run a multi-generational business that's been operating since 1956. The highs, the struggles, and the unique challenges of working with family. You'll see firsthand what it takes to keep a seafood empire thriving while also producing our TV series, Kings of Fish, which you can watch right here on YouTube and on Amazon Prime. All right, so here's the catch of the day. On today's episode, I'm joined by someone who's become not just our neighbor, but a good friend and a fellow cigar aficionado, Jonathan Williams, President and CEO of the Battleship IOWA Museum. Over a decade ago, Jonathan made a bold move. He brought the historic Battleship Iowa from San Francisco to San Pedro, a decision many thought was too risky or just plain impossible, but he made it happen. So today the ship sits just a quarter mile from our restaurant. It's kind of in the background because I'm on the landing right now at our new location. And it stands as a major draw for visitors and a symbol of community pride. And thanks to Jonathan's vision, LA Fleet Week has become a huge boost to the local economy. So Jonathan, welcome to Fish Factor. How are we doing today, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing great. I just watched my 14-year-old son win his basketball game and get the championship, and so I'm good. I'm going into the weekend good, and I'm headed to Kona, Hawaii next week, and taking a week
Nice.
off or two, so I can't complain at all.
Well
Beautiful day.
deserved. Well
Yeah,
deserved, man.
yeah, definitely.
Congratulations. I just caught the last few seconds of second overtime while we are about to prepare, so I saw the joy. That's pretty
Yeah,
awesome. Pretty
yeah, it
awesome.
was awesome. It was awesome. Of course, I'm not smoking a cigar. It's the middle of Friday in my office. Probably shouldn't be doing that. Um, but
Well, not,
I took out my two cigars last night, so
you're close enough that we can there might still be time for one afterwards. Just let me know.
yeah, yeah, there may be. I need lunch after this too. I may have to come down and go to the fish market to eat.
Hey, if you want to come down, I'll be here. I'm free for about an hour and a half or hour. I got a 1 and a 2 o'clock, but I got to eat too. I didn't eat anything. So, right,
Maybe
well,
I'll
hey,
come down.
welcome to my life. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, no, maybe I'll come that way. Maybe I'll head down there after this.
Cool. Yeah. So as you can see, I'm literally Jonathan's right behind me by a quarter mile. So hey, let's start off, man. I wanted to ask you because I've read a lot. We've had some conversations, but I don't think I've ever actually just like asked you why did you choose San Pedro as a new home for the Iowa?
San Pedro was interesting when you look at California. The Iowa had to be placed within the state of California per legislation. Her and USS Wisconsin were two of the last battleships on the Navy register, and one of the requirements was she had to be somewhere in California, which required a deep water berth and a berth that was suitable to be able to tie up a 50 plus thousand ton battleship, which is not necessarily easy to do. And so we actually, I started 25 years ago. We looked at San Francisco, looked at Mare Island. I even helped some of the Stockton group out. And then we started looking down here in Southern California, and San Pedro was kind of the place that was going to have that capability to do it.
How long was the time from actually like tell me how you even got involved with it in the first place? Like what's the historical significance for you?
Yeah, my grandfather served on a sister ship, USS Missouri,
Oh,
during World War II, and he actually came in and out of San Pedro back in the late 30s, serving on the USS Tennessee. Played up at Block Field on the baseball team, and settled in Gardena
oh,
here. And he wanted to see his ship as one of the last things he did in life, and so we flew out and saw his ship, and I saw him turn into this young sailor again, telling the stories of the 30s and 40s as a young sailor.
wow. How
And
cool is
so
that?
that kind of inspired me. He lived 17 more years, but that inspired me to live a life of purpose. So I'm an entrepreneur, much like you and your family. I'm an entrepreneur by trade, but it was at that point I decided to follow a life of purpose, frankly.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What a great story. What would you say stands out most from your experience of relocating the ship?
What stands out most? I guess there's so many stories in there. Coming out of NorCal, because I still travel every week between NorCal and SoCal. Coming out of NorCal, Los Angeles. Everybody thinks of Los Angeles like Disneyland or Universal Studios or a major attraction tourism market. So I think I was a little bit thought that coming down to LA or San Pedro was going to be easy,
Yeah,
and not knowing that San Pedro, when we arrived in San Pedro, you guys at the fish market had obviously done a great job and been successful down on the waterfront. But there was a huge amount of effort that needed to go into bringing alive San Pedro as a town.
yeah.
After a lot of years, the Navy left back in the early '90s, and I think it was kind of that revitalization. So I think that was probably the biggest surprise to me is how much it took to turn into a tourism destination.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of people, I don't think, unless you're familiar with this part of Southern California, Los Angeles, people don't understand. Like, this is people that live here don't consider themselves part of LA.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
they don't. I mean, that's what makes San Pedro wonderful. I mean,
yeah,
San Pedro is one of the most awesome little towns on the waterfront that still exist. I
yeah,
mean, I've come to love it. I'm going to retire here, so I can't
yeah.
complain. Um,
Just on a side note, I don't know if you heard the background noise. I specifically didn't do this out of our San Pedro office because I share it with my brother Henry, and his voice is booming, and somehow he managed to be standing right here anyway.
he followed you.
We're here, we're here at phase 2.0 of the landing, which is like the next phase for us to move into for our temporary, but it's long-term temporary. So it's just like dealing with, even though we're in San Pedro, we still have to deal with Los Angeles building and safety.
Yeah,
So it's like
yeah,
6 month projects now turned into 2+ years because no one's ever built anything like this. It's a temporary spot with 1,600 seats. There's no box to check. So it's
yeah.
like we just keep going in a circle trying to figure out how to get the plans. But anyways, we're a few days away from opening finally. But back to you. Sorry, that's what the background noise was. Yeah, but people, the people that live here don't consider them part of LA, and the people in LA don't consider San
Yeah,
Pedro to be part of LA
exactly.
either. It's the weirdest thing, but we're still under all the same rules and laws and everything else. So
Yeah,
it makes it challenging. But it also makes it challenging from a marketing standpoint because I don't think there are many other entrepreneur business owners besides you and myself, and I'd actually include Jim Hall, who did the Lobster Fest,
yeah,
who are
yep,
actually capable of getting people to come here. When Jim Hall approached us to do the Lobster Fest 20 some years ago, it was actually I think it was 1999. This is right after my dad passed away. It was
yeah,
like a couple weeks after. Everyone's like, yeah, we're happy to give it a shot, but good luck getting anyone down here. Like
yeah,
we're lucky, but we have a very unique customer base that took decades to build, and he was successful. Jason
yeah,
Mraz, English Beat, all the entertainment he had come down here. We did get quite a few people coming in, but outside of him and I, there's not too many other people that I can think of besides you
yeah.
that's managed to
Yeah,
do.
it's a challenge. I mean, we each have our kind of unique segments of where our focus was, especially in those different areas. Um, but when you're looking at a tourism side in the competition in LA, it's like I always tell the team here, we're competing for the LA market and the Orange County market. We're not
Yeah,
competing for the San Pedro market, right?
right.
I look at this as a benefit to San Pedro,
Yeah,
and we generate our revenue outside of San Pedro. And so how do you bring those people down there? Well, that means you have to be competing up on the trip advisors and what we do, the trip advisors, the hitting for keywords on some of the major attractions. You have to be rated as a major attraction to do it, and you have to be looked upon as a major attraction in LA. On the Iowa front, and Fleet Week's a whole different gig. I mean, Fleet Week's got its whole marketing and everything and strategy behind that as well. Um, but we have to look at ourselves as, despite being San Pedro, I look at it as we serve San Pedro, and that's kind of our motto. We serve San
yeah,
Pedro. We're not here to feed off of San Pedro, while we bring in people from outside of San Pedro that really keep the business functioning, right? And
yeah,
it's like great. I love people from San Pedro coming down, but when you do
yeah.
movies down on the decks and things, that really gives a reason for San Pedro to come down. But that's not our primary business by any
Yeah.
means.
And really, for the stuff that you and I do, we need more people than the community can support. You have to reach outside of
Yeah,
it. It's
yeah,
weird. We're opening a new project in the city of Monterey on the wharf, And the more I go up there, the more I realize how much like San Pedro it is.
Yeah.
None of the locals go down to the wharf. They walk on the wharf, and it looks just like the old Portugal village, which I should also give credit. Portugal is the other venture here that drew a lot of people in addition to
Yeah.
us. We were adjacent to it, inside of it, but never really part of it. It was totally different marketing campaigns. But it's weird. You walk around the wharf, and I remember when I met with the city council, they had asked, "Hey, listen, that wharf's iconic, and if you're thinking this is going to be a way to change our wharf and do some sort of attrition issue, whatever the hell you're thinking, you're in the wrong place." They go, "No way, man. I walked down that wharf today. I almost cried because it was like walking through my childhood of what Portugal Village was, that, was just all being torn down to be rebuilt." And I totally support the rebuild, but it didn't connect with me to see, like, man, that's never coming back. Because the last thing I want to do is take that away from you guys. And I think that's part of the reason that they actually chose us, because we could relate to that.
It's it's hard because we look at generations. You look at generations and legacy, and as generations go, different demands go. I mean, we're looking at a generation today that's into experiences, right?
Yeah.
And I think you guys at the fish market have been able to create a brand that's an experience. And you and I've kind of talked about this before.
Yeah.
You created an experience, and by creating that experience, you start to hit the sides of the world like Disneyland or Margaritaville or any of these things that are experiences. That's what the fish market is. I mean, you got great food, but it's an experience. That's why you go to the fish market.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
after all those generations, you've reached that point where people feel it's like part of their life.
It's funny because the one thing that we see common and comments, I would say, across social media, or if you talk to people wait in line, because our lines can sometimes be an hour to get in.
Yeah.
People say, "Listen, I would not wait in a line like this anywhere else but Disneyland." And I'm like, it's not Disneyland inside, by the way. But I do appreciate the comparison. Like, we just had an interview with a person we're planning to hire as a controller. And, we use an agency to find her, and I'm talking to her, and she goes, "I've been coming here since before I was 1 year old, every Mother's Day and every Father's Day with my family." I'm like, "No way."
Yeah.
And so it's like interesting to hear these stories that people have about the history of coming down here. But I want to transition over. So you kind of touched on Fleet Week, and that's such a big project. And I could tell, like, we talk about trying to get together and smoke a cigar during it. Then I realized, dude, there's no way you have that kind of time. So tell us about like what was the sort of the flashpoint for you to think about that, and what goes into planning it, and the impact it's had on the community.
I look at Fleet Week. We had Navy days and we had ship visits that came for a good while down here in San Pedro. But you look at what are you going to do to make something bigger, and that's where I got involved is really working with the port and the Navy to say let's do something bigger. And of course, I mean, as you know, being an entrepreneur, we don't like to do anything half-assed per se. And so it's like, if we're going to do it,
we don't give up either.
Yeah, we don't. And so that stubborn persistence and that always wanting to keep hitting that ball, it was like, all right, let's go, let's do this, let's go big. And it really was like, well, what does going big look like? And what does going big look like to a society that's not necessarily connected to the military like they were, say, 50, 60, 70 years ago? And how do you create a public-driven festival around a military type of brand, right? And so we really established it and just went for it and started pulling in different factors and taking some risks, like the concerts we did, Beach Boys, Cheap Trick. Started blowing through things like radius clauses by doing those, and been able to really open the door for other major things to come down here onto the waterfront, and taking some of those risks. But I'm happy to look at this past LA Fleet Week. We had over 100 events throughout all of LA up in the region. This is LA's event. This is not San Pedro's event. We have a piece of it here.
Yeah.
We had things up at the Grove, Disneyland. I mean, it was all over. So I got to drive around everywhere and see some of that going on. And so it really has a major impact, and it's brought a lot of attention to San Pedro. And our metrics are actually beating out New York, which is the same weekend.
No way.
So we overtook New York, I think, this year, and so I'm overly excited about that. And so I can't complain. I mean, the waterfront was jammed, and we were jamming, and we've got an event that's really bringing LA onto that national or that worldwide scale as it gets ready for the Olympics.
And how many? So in addition to ships, you have helicopters, and there's all kinds of different things going on. Like how many? But how many like sea vessels are here during Fleet Week?
Um, so we had, what do we have? Four vessels. We had an unmanned vessel, two manned vessels, or three manned vessels. The Eagle, two Navy ships, and a unmanned Navy ship. So we had four this year. Last year we had an aircraft carrier, and so it depends on what's available in the world's gamut, right? I mean, what's
Yeah,
going on in the world space that can drive what kind of ships we see, as well as the Marine Corps and helicopters and tanks and all kinds of toys they roll out.
that's
And
incredible.
it's really about the people. I mean, for me, it's like you talked about I talked about my grandfather. I mean, the men and women of our armed services who've become friends of mine. We as a nation have had a bigger divide than I think we ever have in history, especially with some of the veterans transition stuff that's so public in the media and film. Some of the things that we've seen in military side, military action, social media, like where our media market is today isn't where it was 50, 60, 70 years ago as well.
Wow.
And I think we have a bigger divide in our service members and people thinking that there's something different than our neighbors, our brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, neighbors. They're everyday Americans like us. They stepped forward and threw on a uniform to as a career and made a choice as a career to do it and
Yeah.
defend the nation. And so that for me is what Fleet Week's important, is to humanize these people. We're not in Rome, right? I mean, they didn't pick up a sword and run out the front door. I mean, it's really the humanizing of our military and being able to build those bridges that's important to me.
I know. I don't want to get. I don't know if this sounds political, but I sometimes I see the irony in we're protesting the military that allows you to protest. It's like people lose sight of the freedoms that we have as a result of it, and how it relates back to what we're able to do sometimes. And I think it gets lost on just how important it is to have a strong armed forces for the freedom of our country.
Yeah, we've had obviously have events on the ship, and I've had a few events that have been people have protested at the ship because they didn't like who was on board. That's happened a few times at this point. And one of my favorite things to say is when I get up on stage and speak, I'm like, I want to thank the protesters for coming out here and protesting, because this ship fought for their right to protest.
Exactly.
Like, I have no issue with it. I mean, that's about being American.
That's right. I'm right there with you, man. Um, I was going to ask you also, when you said events, it just triggered me to remember that we had a cool one on Memorial Day a few years ago with Joey
Yeah.
Chestnut and the shrimp eating contest. That was awesome. Remember?
Yeah, maybe we should actually, this coming year for Fleet Week. Now that you mentioned that, now that we have Fleet Week over Memorial Day and we have galley wars and things going on,
Yeah,
maybe we should do like something with you that's with like the branches of the military. Like we'll get people that sign up branches of the military and do like a shrimp eating contest or
that would be
something,
awesome. Oh
or
my
like
God, that
throw a shrimp tray in front of every one of them and see how quick it takes them to finish a shrimp tray.
I'm down with that, man. That's a great idea. That would
I
be
think that
fun.
would go well. I mean, and
Yeah,
we could broadcast that, and it's authentic
yeah.
to the waterfront. Why
We
not?
can make a whole episode out of for Kings of Fish out of it too. That'd be a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, we should. I
All
think
right.
actually it's easy enough to do.
Yeah, it's not like we're just next door. It's not we could be there in a minute.
Yeah, we can do it. Over this year's Fleet Week, right going into this year's Fleet Week, when I gave you a call, we had the Houston Fleet Week folks that came out
That's right.
to learn about Fleet Week. They're doing their first Fleet Week this year, and they wanted to see how we did it. And you got such a brand that they wanted. One of them was like, "Is the San Pedro Fish Market around here?" And I said, "It is." And they're like, "Can
No
we
way, I
go to
didn't know
lunch
that.
there?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's go to lunch. Sure, no
I know I
problem."
was stupid stuck in meetings all day. I couldn't get down here, but I'm glad the team was able to help out and make that work. That's so great, man.
Yeah, your team was great, and they gave a great experience. And I think probably a lot of your listeners think since you're next door, I would just go down there and dine all the time. But as you know, I'm not there that often.
But it's
But
not
I
only,
enjoyed it. It was great.
not only that, but you've got like a you know, we miss a lot of opportunities to share a cigar together because we're both so stupid busy. It's ridiculous.
That's true.
I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to slow down once this new location's open and breathe.
Good luck. You got Monterey coming online, and you got things coming online. So
Yeah, that's true. But I'm trying to hire outside to do stuff so I can have a little more free time to do the fun stuff like this. You know,
oh
that's
yeah,
interesting. So like, we have to produce our income or revenue in different ways, right? We're for profit, so we have to have customers come in and buy product. But you're a nonprofit. Like, what are some of the challenges you have to face as running a nonprofit? Like, I think the way you say it is you could do a lot more than I can do. I have more. I actually have more restrictions than you do.
No, I think this is the important part of a nonprofit, and I think anybody that's watching this or listeners, the important part of a nonprofit is to me it's no different than a business. It's what we do with the profit, right? So the
Right.
profit goes into the shareholder's pocket. As a nonprofit, we have an obligation to the community. So, folks come to me and say, "Hey, your ship," and it's like, "It's not my ship. This is the community ship. This is your ship, Mike.
Yeah.
This is your listener's ship. This is." I have an obligation to the community to operate an ethical and transparent organization, and then when we do make so and so profits, those profits are reinvested in the right place to affect the community in a positive way, right? And so we have, I like to say, we have some flexibility, a lot more flexibility in some ways. We have a lot less in a lot of other ways because I have to run a very transparent, public, visible organization. I can't
Fair
hide
enough.
anything. You can figure
Right.
out what I get paid, right? And so I have a big obligation to the city and the state and the nation and everybody else. But we also are able to raise money. We're also able to do some of the philanthropic give back programs where corporate sponsors and donors can come in and support those where we can do things to support the community while
Yeah.
also generating some earned revenue over on the admission side. And so it's a business with a feel good side of things, but with an intense obligation in it. And but you know that the part is I know I'm never going to get rich doing this, right? Sometimes you go, why am I doing this? I'm never going to get rich doing it, but you get a sense of knowing that you're making a difference on people's
Yeah.
lives. I mean, that's probably the
Yeah.
biggest piece for me.
I studied a lot of business philosophy, and one of the things that keeps coming back to me is money is not currency, right? It's not the pay. It's really how it's the method by which you can affect change, and that's really where wealth is. It's like what can you produce, what outcomes you produce that you're after that don't necessarily have to be currency you hold in your pocket, but it could be your identity, it could be the network you put together. And I got to tell you, dude, your identity and the network you put together is like unparalleled from what I've watched. So I think you're rich. Maybe not in the way you're thinking, but I think at some point it's going to pay off bigger than you realize.
Well,
Um,
it's life. If you feel like you have a sense of purpose and you make a difference in people and it matters, then I think that's you have to. I think people have to choose what kind of life they want to live, and
right.
I mean, if you look at it, it's how you affect the people. I mean, you look at what you've done at the fish market. You've made you know how many families that you make happy and put smiles on people's face every single day and every weekend. I mean,
Yeah.
you have become a place where families come together and they share memories. I mean,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
And that's what we call it, man. Celebrating food and family because it's all families. It's great when you have people come down and go, like today, I'm interviewing this controller, and she goes, I've been coming down there since I was a baby. She had a tattoo of her grandfather here because he passed away. And that's who used to bring her because I think her mom worked a lot when she was young and she was a young mother. So she was raised by her grandparents, and the grandma would make her come down to grandpa every Father's Day and Mother's Day. And now that he's passed away, she has a tattoo of his face here. So he's always in the picture with her, all the family pictures. Like, that's really cool. I'm not getting any tattoos, no offense, but that's awesome. My brother Henry has one of my dad and all his kids, like in random places on his arms and legs too.
Yeah, tattoos is each his own. So
Yeah.
but
I
you
got
do.
I got no problem with them. I'm just not into. If it was a family member, it would work. But I'm like, I don't know. I get a tattoo or something, and then I change my mind every 6 days. I won't like the tattoo, and I'm stuck with it.
You know what? Hey, look, I just got another tattoo yesterday. I mean, people would be surprised. I've got my whole chest covered, and my.
No way.
I mean, yeah. So you talk about cigar smoking. Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
That's a cigar smoking tiki because anybody that knows me knows I love Hawaii, and it's a cigar smoking tiki. So you know what?
I could probably do that one.
All right.
'Cause
So,
I love
so
Hawaii.
it's all about what memories you may have, and for me, it's about what makes my personality. So cigar smoking tiki, I probably will never regret.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it, man. So hey, let's. I have one more question for you. What's next? Tell us what's next for the Iowa.
We're building a
Battleship.
building.
Hmm.
Talk about building and safety. We're building a building. Um,
You forget they're across the street.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. It may be easier across the street, but we're building a building, or we're working on the building right now, going through the soils engineering and stuff, so we could have a big events venue down here, and also probably do a restaurant in there, more an experience. Once again,
Nice.
an experience around sailors and that kind of
Awesome.
sailor bar experience. Obviously, not. I don't want to fully bring back San Pedro of the 1970s, but a piece of it.
Yeah. Beacon
Um,
Street.
yeah, yeah. And so we've got that going on. We're going to build a nice, beautiful Veterans Memorial Park down on the pier, Liberty Point. We got a whole new museum experience, a life as a sailor experience. It brings alive the sailor's experience on a ship that we're working on as well. So we got quite a few things that we got in the works. And for me, Fleet Week, is all about. We got to have the best Fleet Week in the nation. So that's what it's about for me. So when somebody comes, another Fleet Week calls us and says, "How you do it?" That makes me excited, and
Yeah.
we see all the people that come down and the community come out with pride and beaming with pride. I mean, that is actually a big thing for me. When for years, as you know, being down here for years, the jealousy over Long Beach was like very prevalent.
Yeah.
Because Long Beach has some great events and Long Beach Grand Prix and things like that. The jealousy was huge for years. That's all I ever heard was Long Beach, Long Beach, Long Beach. And then when we all of a sudden got Fleet Week down here, it's like the community's claim to fame for one of the big events for the year. And so now that we've got that, I think I don't hear Long Beach very often. I don't hear any of the stuff I used to hear 10 years ago.
That's awesome. I know when we were negotiating to open our other location in Long Beach, they were, are you going to keep the name San Pedro or call it Long Beach Fish Market? I'm not changing the name, dude. You're welcome. We're happy to be here, but I got to keep the name.
Yeah, I got to imagine that probably didn't work. They were fine with it, I'm sure. But
They were happy. I
there's
mean,
really
they're
a
happy to have us.
competition.
It's funny that I think what I've heard is there's plans to redevelop that whole area we're in over there the same way they are kind of doing here, and I'm like, yeah, I can't go through that again. But I was reading an article. I think it went through City Council that was crediting us with a bit of a like rejuvenation of the area because people they needed stuff there. You had Ballast Point. You've got some other restaurants. Obviously, John Morris's place is pretty popular, but the one that we were in, originally was a Rusty Pelican, which is, the Talashe. That's who built
Yeah,
everything down here at the Port Skull Village. So, and then it became a Joe's Crab Shack, but it just wasn't working out. And when we took it over, it's actually doing pretty well. It took a little while because of COVID, but we jumped out of that, and it's finally hitting, and people know it's there now. So I think it's a good. I mean, Long Beach is really happy to have us there. We've made some really good
good,
friends, but it took some time,
good.
because of that whole like competition between the two cities.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, tell us like where can we learn more about the Battleship Center, Iowa, and your plans in Fleet Week?
Yeah, so if you go to pacificbattleship.com, we're going through a website kind of redevelop, even a brand alignment. But if you go to pacificbattleship.com, we have all of our brands and efforts that we're involved in there. So that's
Cool,
the easiest place.
very awesome, man. Well, we're filming today, which we're in June, but I don't think this will actually be seen by people for by the time it is. I think we got 11 more weeks to go before this one airs, so that should all be wrapped up, and we'll be open here.
Perfect. Yeah, that would be all wrapped up by that point.
Yeah,
So
awesome. Well,
cool.
man, thanks for being on. Thanks for catching up with me, and see you soon for a cigar, maybe in a few minutes for lunch. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Mike.
All right, man. Take care. Good talking to you. Thanks again for listening to The Fish Factor. I'm Mike Ungaro. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, and you can also check out all the episodes of Kings of Fish right here. You can learn more about our restaurants by going to our website, sanpedrofish.com, or you can follow us on our social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, etc., at San Pedro Fish, or the TV show at Kings of Fish.